Friday afternoon, Kamehameha Day, folks. Downtown Honolulu. Ted Ralston here, your host at ThinkTech Studios on Where the Drone Leads. And we got some fantastic guests from around the islands with us here. And thanks to the incredible technical skill of Zuri Bender, our station manager, we actually have Kauai, Maui, and Oahu all linked together, sort of halfway linked anyway, by Skype. Anyway, Where the Drone Leads, on the 25th of June, if you see drones flying about in Honolulu, you're probably at Iolani School, where the Mini Makers Faire will be taking place. And let me welcome Ross Mukai. Well, there we go. Hi, Ross. Welcome again for coming on the show here for us.
Hi, Ted. It's good to be here.
Last year you were here doing the same thing, talking about Mini Makers Faire.
Talking about the Mini Maker Faire.
Yeah.
June 25th, we're going to have the Mini Maker Faire. It's like a show and tell kind of event for everybody that's working on great projects to share them with the world. We're also going to have a drone competition, so there's going to be maybe 20, 30
which is why you're on the show.
Yeah.
Where the drone leads, man. Yep. That's what it's all
about. They're going to have a speed and obstacle, pilot skill
out there on the baseball field at Iolani?
Yep, on the baseball field at Iolani.
Okay. Cool. So we'll talk more a little bit about that in a minute, but let's also introduce our other guests. We have Laura Ulibarri standing by on Maui, and she's associated with something very similar, Maui Makerspace, right? Laura, are you there?
Right. Yeah, hi.
Okay, we see you in freeze frame here because of communications inadequacy that we've got going on. Anyway, welcome aboard, Laura, and we'll have to get you on again sometime. And maybe you can tell us what the dates are, the major dates for your Makerspace events on Maui this year.
Yeah, so we're going to be supporting the Mini Maker Faire on Honolulu. So we've been involved since the beginning, and we're excited to be part of the organizing committee.
Okay, so you'll be over here on Oahu on the 25th?
Yep, they'll be here.
Yeah, we'll be joining, bringing over some cool stuff we made.
Ah, okay, we're going to have an island-to-island comparison here of some kind going on. That's good, okay. And now, are you going to be having a Makers Faire on the island itself on Maui?
No, not yet. Okay. We haven't gotten to the where we've gotten enough interest.
We'll have to use this TV show to generate that interest on Maui, and then get the population going, and have you a Makers Faire on Maui. And let's introduce Carl Lozar. Carl's on the other end of the island chain, Kauai, and Carl with the Makerspace Kauai. And how are you fitting in the picture? Oh, there we go. We got Laura moving now. How do you fit in the picture, Carl?
Well, we're trying to put together a makerspace here in Kauai, so, some sort of model similar to what Ross or what Laura has going on in the other two islands. And the Big Island has the Makery too.
Are you going to be part of the 25th June event over here on Oahu?
Yeah, Kauai Makerspace, I guess. We're coming over. We're going to have sumo bots for the kids to just walk up and sumo with each other. And I guess I was also helping out with some of the presentations, some of the presentation speakers for the event.
Okay. And by the way, I volunteered to be a speaker at one of the sessions talking about the rules of drones. Drones and unmanned air systems are moving so fast, and the regulations are starting to catch up with them now. And there's a lot of things people have to pay attention to. And it's going to be a complicated world out there, so we'd like to have some time to talk about that with folks who want to attend. But this whole notion of Makers Faire caught me by surprise about 2 years ago. I don't remember how I got involved, but got invited to bring some UAS or drones down to the Iolani event, met you and John Shear and some others. And this whole notion of Makers Faire is really intriguing. You're from the IT business, so for you it's sort of part of what you do anyway, right? But tell us all about where the whole makers concept came from, and where do you think it might be going, Ross?
The makers concept, and the maker concept, the maker movement, everything to do with that kind of came from a lot of people that were working on projects or doing things maybe nobody had done them before. We're combining a lot of different things or working in areas that aren't, or doing new things, and it's difficult to categorize something like that when you're working on something that has everything. It has a computer, but you have to I don't know, weld stuff onto it, and you have to do...
Weld stuff onto your computer?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Like, well, especially if you're doing embedded systems, maybe the location that you're deploying it might require a lot more than just the IT component. You have other components like manufacturing, and you have other components, fabrication and things like that. Because it's not easily categorized as something that exists, it gets
So you're making a
described as
functionality
makers.
out of bits and pieces that is way above what erector sets ever did or chemistry sets ever did. And at least in my day as a kid, an erector set was kind of what you had, that's about it. Or maybe a chemistry set. You've gone way beyond there. You've got circuit boards that do a lot of logic functions. You've got motive devices, you've got motors and such, and so you can do a lot with this, putting things together. So that's what is behind this, is the miniaturization and the...
Yeah, kind of the instruments that you would need to manufacture things at a small or medium or large scale are getting more popular, and they're getting more available.
Like printed,
more people.
Three-dimensional printing, right? I'm sure there's going to be 4 or 5 3D printers humming down there and making objects and things.
Lots of 3D printers.
Yeah. So you're at the cutting edge of where new things are happening.
Yep.
And people now, where in the past might not have access to this because it was controlled in the large manufacturing business and this sort of thing, now it's available in small scale, miniaturization, at costs that aren't unreasonable for people to pay attention to.
And in the past, you know, you mentioned erector sets, maybe you could go out and buy the erector set and you have a kit and you could build something interesting with it. Now the machinery is getting so commonplace and so easy to make that you could probably find the machine that makes the erector sets on the internet somewhere, or at least, you know, 3D print the parts that you need in order to build whatever the toys that you want to use.
And you can do something here on Oahu at the software level and then print it off on Maui or print it off on Kauai and have the parts actually built anywhere in the world that you can get.
It's very common for people that don't actually have access to a 3D printer. Either they don't have one, or no one near them has one, or there's no makerspace around they can 3D print stuff at, that you can send off your 3D model to a service, have it 3D printed or machined or whatever it is, and then mailed back to you.
That's pretty cool. And so that's what this Makers Faire is all about. It's getting people together who want to make things happen and in a scale that is doable in a small space that doesn't going to cost you $1 million. It's not a big, gigantic aerospace object or something like that. But it has the similar functions and in a small scale. How do people come across this, other than, of course, the Maker Faire, which we're going to tell them to come down here on the 25th of June at Iolani. But how would the average person come across this availability and begin participating in it?
Begin participating in
a the philosophy and the strategy of makers. How would I, not involved, just where would I go to start becoming a maker?
The easiest way to start doing stuff like that is to come to the Makerspace.
Makers Faire, that's where you start, right?
Oh, Maker Faire, Makerspace, either one, yeah.
So Makers Faire is the periodic gathering of people in a large group, but maker spaces exist all the time. And we've got Maui, we've got Kauai, we've got Oahu on the show here together. So tell us a little bit, let's go to say the most remote of all, let's go to Kauai. How does the Makerspace functionality play out on Kauai, Carl? How would somebody such as myself hook up with you and start making things in your operation on Kauai?
Well, it's a good time to ask. We just partnered with the public libraries. So we're going to put in pilot fab labs at the public libraries. We're going to be rolling out in Kapaa to start out with. So we'll get our existing members. We've been meeting in the past just socially and sharing projects and then getting together at each other's garages. But now we're going to roll out in the libraries. We're going to take our equipment down there starting July. And anybody who would be interested can come and use what we have. I think probably in the context of getting started, the bigger, most of the equipment and most of the technology is very accessible, but the knowledge base on how to get started is the hard part. So if you can get together with a group like us or Ross's crew of people or the crew of people at Maui, that's what really makes a difference. You find out, hey, on Wednesday nights, the 3D printing night, I'm interested. I kind of was thinking about buying one. Come on down, visit, talk shop, and then you can learn free. You can learn for free how to get started and whether or not it really does fit you or not. So
that's a great idea, using the public libraries as a distribution channel. So you get access to all the mothers and the kids who come together there. You get access to the school kids, you get access to the schools themselves. In fact, you could even think extending beyond the libraries into the school system and make this available through the schools.
Yeah, we've all been working a lot with the public libraries over the past year or so. And
so I can go to the Kailua Library and I could 3D print something at some point in time in the future.
On Oahu, I think there's only one on the North Shore right now that's doing that. But it's a program that they're working on, and they want to expand to all of the different public libraries to have like some sort of small, able to be supported by the library's Makerspace program. That's
pretty cool. When I was a small kid in Kailua, the library is where you learned about the world. You went and you found out things. Later on, computers came in, and you could use the computers in the library to do whatever you needed, or also do research. And now you're putting the tactile factor in here, the actual construction, the actual fabrication, and software code writing. I suspect is going to be a part of this.
And definitely.
That's an incredible idea. Hats off to whoever thought of using the libraries as a way to expand this access. And Laura, on Maui, same thing taking place?
Yeah, so we got some exciting stuff going on over here. We have a program for kids. We call it our Manifest. And then we've been doing a lot with 3D printed prosthetic hands.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah, so those are pretty amazing. So for about $25, you can print a hand for a kid who needs.
And this is being distributed through this capability is being made available through the libraries on Maui as well?
We haven't connected with the libraries yet on Maui. We've been working at the state level to get into the libraries, and they're starting to get excited about makerspaces.
This is cool. I'll tell you what, we'll talk a little bit more about what the public might think, what they might find at the Makerspace, at the Mini Makers Faire in Iolani in 2 weeks when we get back from our first break.
All right.
I'm Jay Fidel, and I'm the host of Research in Manoa, Mondays from 12 to 1 on ThinkTechHawaii.com. Take a look at us and learn about geophysics, learn about planetology, learn about the ocean and earth sciences at UH Manoa. You'll really enjoy it. So come around, we'll see you then.
You're watching ThinkTech Hawaii, meeting people we may not otherwise have met, helping us understand and appreciate the good things about Hawaii. Great content for Hawaii from ThinkTech.
Hi, I'm Ethan Allen, host of Likeable Science on ThinkTech Hawaii. I hope you'll join me each Friday afternoon as we explore the amazing world of science. We bring on interesting guests, scientists from all walks of life, from all walks of science, to talk about the work they do, why they do it, and moreover, why it's interesting to you. What the science really means to your life, its impacts on you, how it's shaping the world around you, and why you should care about it. I do hope you'll join me every Friday at 2 p.m. for Likeable Science.
Yeah, Stacy said she distributed that all to all the libraries.
We're back, folks. Ted Rawson here and our crew on Where the Drone Leads at ThinkTech Studios, Honolulu on Kamehameha Day, Friday the 11th. Welcoming once again Ross Mukai from last year from the Makers Faire, same reason you're here this year. And we have Carlo Lozar on Kauai with the Kauai Makerspace, and we have Laura Ulibarri on Maui with Maui Makerspace. So we have all the Makerspace people. We're missing the Big Island, missing Kaho'olawe, and missing Lanai. By the way, I got to introduce you all, in fact I will on an email afterwards, to a guy named George Purdy on Lanai. I think he would absolutely jump on what you're doing for the island of Lanai. He's associated with Pulama, the Cultural and Educational Association on Lanai, involved in the UAS operations on the island and the high ends of education. So George Purdy, consider him part of this group from this point. George, I hope you're watching.
All right.
Anyway, once again, this really new concept of putting the ability to fabricate something quickly and with precision and in a quality way that is the piece that makes Makers Faire work you're collecting all that capability, all that, the people who do this, and the various different machines all coming together at Iolani in the educational center there, I believe it is. Is that where it's going to be?
It's in the Sullivan Center.
Sullivan Center, that big
large tech
amphitheater-like place there, right?
Yep.
And on the fields outside, on the 25th, and there'll be people from Maui and Kauai supporting you here on Oahu.
Yes.
And how many different stations will there be? How many different opportunities will there be, different functions will there be for the public to touch and feel in this world of makerspace?
Well, we have over 26 groups coming
26
by
groups.
to you know, have exhibits and show tables.
They'll be actually making things right there.
Yeah. And they're also doing live demos, things that they're working on, things that people can do, things that people can get engaged with and get their hands on and try, or you know, hear about how to do a lot of this stuff. We also have speakers using some of the conference rooms in the building, and a soldering workshop. People can learn how to do soldering.
So people can actually participate. They get hands-on. They can actually do something right there, not just watch.
Yeah, the soldering workshop has a lot of soldering irons. Everybody can get on it and solder something. Unfortunately, I think the Eventbrite check-ins for the soldering workshop are all sold out. There's a Raspberry Pi workshop. All of the check-ins for that one are all sold out too. But
well, that's a good point. To the people watching this, the public, what do they have to do to actually attend the event?
It's a free event, so we'd like people to use the Eventbrite so that we can track the number of people who are planning to come or have come.
Is there a web link or something we can put up on the screen here?
That's at HonoluluMiniMakerFaire.com.
Honolulu Mini Maker Faire with an E on the end.
Yep, with an E on the end.
.com, all one string, right?
All one string.
Honolulu MiniMakerFaire.com.
Yep.
So people can get on that, jump on it tonight, sign up, and help you out by telling you how many people are coming, among other things.
Yep.
We expect a couple of hundred.
I think we've already had 600 sign up through Eventbrite.
That's a couple of hundred, all right.
And last year we had 400 people show up on Eventbrite. But in actuality, we counted like 800 people. So this year, if we already had 600 on Eventbrite, I'm sure we'll have a lot of people.
Well, you know, last year we were there, my wife and I, giving a presentation on drones, I believe. But we attended one of the other presentations that was going on. It was by Dr. Ed Peer down at Oceanit on a really interesting subject. It was on the image extraction or feature extraction from high-rate videos. And ever since knowing what he was doing, we've been working together the last year on that. So I got a lot of value personally out of coming to Makers Faire last year. So it isn't just mechanical fabrication. There's also software, and there's new means of intelligent use of systems and such. There's this whole state change of.
That I think is the greatest value from the Maker Faire, is that everybody can get together and show off what they're working with, and then people will start working together after that. They'll collaborate on new things that wouldn't have existed had these people not made, you know, this connection, and they wouldn't have made the connection without, you know, sharing. And sharing at the Maker Faire is a great way.
And the cool part, we can bring the resources and the frame of thinking from the other islands into this, and then you can remain hooked together as we are here when the Makers Faire is not on. So there's one thing I wanted to suggest after having experienced the last couple of years and then anticipating this year. One of the things that kind of coming into the world, in the world of UAVs, is an ethics of UAVs. There's, of course, the regulations and laws, but the ethics of how you actually design something, in the sense that people are going to start depending on these systems. They're going to start expecting them to perform at a high level and be economically viable and be safe and all this. So there's this whole beginning of groundswell of interest in how we think about complex systems that are integrated, such as in a maker's orientation, where it's object-based programming in effect. We're not really doing fundamentals. We're doing objects that are functioning pieces of software, hooking them up with another piece of software or a piece of mechanical equipment. And so once people start relying on those, then we as the designers have the obligation to make sure that they are going to work just like they're supposed to work really well for a long time. So that is going to be codified some way in the UAS business in terms of secure and reliable software and integration and operational reliability. And we haven't seen what that's going to turn into yet, but I just wanted to point out that by virtue of being able to do these things and now generating expectance and reliability, expectance of reliability, we now have the obligation to go find some way to quantify that and inject that into the system. So when you were reacting to my comments about getting some value out of this by getting some high-end software out of it, I think there's the other piece we can work on, which is putting that concept of ethics in the people who are making things, because they may not, in the days of Tinker Toys and erector sets and such, nobody relied on them at all. They were just toys. Now we're talking about a different state of character in these systems, and so having them have a higher level of
I think those are some of the questions that that pop up like at the last minute, especially for the open source stuff, is the ethics of it. You know, we can do this, should we do this, and then the security of it. Yeah. What can someone else do with the thing that we did? What
can they do wrong with it? How can they hurt themselves or hurt others, and this sort of thing? So that's exactly right. And Carl and Laura, again, please chime in with your thoughts on this very issue of the ethical responsibility we all have as promoters of these things to also find a way to start bringing in like control mechanisms or means of assuring that we have safe and reasonable operation and minimizing the malicious aspects. It's an interesting situation. Your thoughts would be?
Yeah, we have a lot of folks who are coding side here on Maui. And one of the things to emerge is virtual reality.
Aha. I like that. Okay.
Yeah, so we've got a lot of folks interested in what do you do with virtual reality? Where do you use virtual reality? What do you use it for?
Let's just, I'm going to hold that aside and pick up Carl's ideas. I saw Carl nodding his head here and want to chime in. And then I'll go back to the virtual reality piece after we hear from Carl.
Well, I would say that, you know, in terms of ethics or moving forward and also in a moral way, the Mini Makers Faire, I think, is a really good step. I think you can't really legislate everything. I think the first thing you need to do is build community. Most humans are not malicious. We like each other. We just need to get together and figure out how to go forward. And so an event like the Mini Makers Faire and us collaborating across the state or having the opportunity to network is probably the first thing you need to do. The other thing I would say also is in the state of Hawaii, we really live in an area where we have a privileged background. And what I mean by that is the Hawaiian culture, the ancient Hawaiian culture, is one of the strongest cultures that I am aware of that is very, very concerned about making sure it's okay with the spirits, making sure it's okay with what they're going to do, making sure that they don't, in an unsustainable way, particularly, destroy just to make. And, you know, in some cultures, that's not even really a concern. And you know, you can get a lot of bad stuff by not thinking that. We really live in a place where there's ancient wisdom already in place to help us move forward. And it's really actually special, I think. And I think you can mine that and you can learn from that and go forward in a responsible way.
That's a really great idea, Carl. I'm really struck by that because you just open up the dimension of what the Makers Faire is. It's not just making things, it's making things great, making things safe, making them reliable, making them impervious to malicious effects, making them work in the saltwater environment we've got here. So Makers has a lot of dimensions to it that I never had perceived. I'm really intrigued by that. I do want to go back in the short time we have left here to what Laura brought up, virtual reality. That is really a centerpiece of a lot of this, and I think that's great. And the drone racing comes in there. I'm hogging the conversation here, but through some other work we're doing, we're trying to harvest what it is about drone racing that makes the virtual reality piece so dynamic and so useful in terms of decision making, and find a way to transport that over to search and rescue and other aspects of the drone usage that can benefit from what the drone racers are doing that they haven't even thought of. So there's an incredible technology transfer out of this, and I guess I would like to even suggest maybe too late for this year, but next year let's add a search and rescue component to this. How do we take everybody in the whole Makers Faire? Okay, we have 30 minutes. We have a search and rescue situation. We got to go right now up in the Hawaiian Islands. What do you got that'll work? And think about how that might jam together. We'll do it virtually, not in real. But the year after that, we'll do it for real. Anyway, this is really interesting conversation, and I really like the notion of virtual reality and the notion of making having so many different dimensions to it. So once again, June 25th, Iolani.
Yep. Iolani School.
Iolani School. So starting at what, 9 o'clock in the morning?
Actually, we start at noon and we end at 5.
Noon to 5, okay. And there's parking there and everything?
Yep.
And Mini Makers Faire with an E on the end.
Honolulu.
Honolulu, minimakersfaire.com. Get on the line, register, come on down. Bring stuff if you want, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Bring stuff and bring things you want to show other people, right? Even if you're not an official exhibitor. And have some fun, practice, meet people, and let's talk about making in this really broad dimension of making. I think that's a fantastic thing you guys are doing, and my hat's off to you, especially the library concept. That is so cool. Make the libraries into this whole dynamic domain of interacting with the universe.
The original sharing point of information.
How about that? Yeah. And Carl brought up the strength of the culture we have here that allows us to think of making in that wider dimension. Laura brought up the virtual reality. It was great. If we had, just imagine if we had George Purdy on here, George from Lanai, adding to this, and the gang over at hele adding to this. What a deal we'd have. So once again, Ross Mukai, thanks for coming on again.
Thanks,
and
Dan.
Carl Lozar and Makerspace Kauai, and Laura Ulibarri from Maui, the Maui Makerspace. Thanks again, and we'll see you guys all on the 25th, along with another 1,000 people from the population here. And folks, that's it for our show. We're down to a half-hour format in this show these days, so we will see you again next Friday. And once again, Ross, thanks for coming into the station, and
thanks for having me on the show.
Joining us here.
Thanks for having me on the show.